Yeah, and there's a saying as well in China where it's we have it in English as well. You know, you get what you pay for, and in Chinese it's 一分钱一分货, and you know, and so if you want a cheap product, you can get a cheap product, no problem. But if you want a high level, a high quality, high level product, then you can absolutely get one of those as well. You can get whatever you any level of the spectrum in China, which is why it's such a fantastic place to get things made.
Hello, Robert. How are you doing?
Hi, Oscar. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Mhm. It is a pleasure to have you here. Although it's been like sort of impossible to connect because of the agendas and time zones and everything, but finally we're here.
We got there eventually. Better late than never. Absolutely.
Okay, so could you please introduce yourself to the audience very briefly, Robert, and tell us who you are, what have you been doing, up to your current position at Gaia Sourcing?
Absolutely. So my name's Robert Reid-Kay, and I was born and raised in Hong Kong. As a young boy, I enjoyed sports and computer games and all of those fun things. And I then went to university in the UK to study computer science and
Oh.
information technology. And so I always kind of wanted to follow a career in tech, and I ended up going through a few different jobs. Oh well, after university, I moved to China or back to China, to Beijing specifically, and I worked for restaurants, I worked for gelato companies, I worked for the China Association of Performing Arts as a
Oh,
tour
wow.
director, which was extremely interesting. I did that for a few years, and then finally I worked for ByteDance, which is the mother or father company of TikTok, and and I worked with them on the localization and publishing team, and then and then that brought me to where I am now as one of the co-founders of Gaia Sourcing.
Interesting. I'm very interested about this concept of Hong Kong Brit, because it's like it's like very um I would say, well, I wouldn't say strange, but to me it is like a Spaniard, like to have someone like from China, then going to the UK, to the university, then going back to China. So, if I ask you, what's your motherland? Would you say it's China, or is it the UK?
I would very much say that I often say that I'm from Hong Kong,
Uh-huh.
but I am very British. And that's
We can notice, because of your accent, baby.
I can't hide that.
No, no, no.
No. So yeah, well, I think as many people know, Hong Kong was a part of the British colony for a very long time, and so there's lots of Britishness in sort of the DNA of Hong Kong, and lots of Hong Kong culture has been defined by British culture, and so there were so many things, so many parallels, and that you could see everywhere. I mean, even the street signs, the road signs, everything's in, it has English and Chinese, and lots of the street names are named after places in the UK, and even some of the things still have royal at the beginning. Some
Oh,
places
wow.
still have royal at the beginning of their official titles. So Hong Kong was and still is in some regards quite sort of culturally British, and but I'll still always be a Guilo, which means a white ghost in the eyes of my Hong Kong local friends. I will never be a true Hong Kong local, and that's just something I have to live with.
Oh yeah, but but that's the beauty of it, no? And how did you, because of this, like obviously like Chinese / breed background, and also like a breed education, how did all this come together into Gaia Sourcing? I mean, what's the story? What's the beginning of that? Because we were speaking the other day when preparing the interview, and I think it's like a interesting story, like to tell.
Yeah, well, I think throughout university, I always had this thing in my mind, like I'm going to go and explore China for a little bit, and and then not only that, but I had conversations with lecturers and with peers, and they were all saying, China's the future, China's the future. This was back in 2010 time, and it definitely did feel, having just had the Chinese Olympics, Beijing Olympics, and there was so much buzz with surrounding China, that I just felt that I had to come back and immerse myself. And so and so then I just came back, and I loved it. I created a really good network of people who I was studying with and working with, and then before I knew it, I cut to about 10 years later, during COVID, I was working at ByteDance, and it was COVID, so no one could come into China, and I was being contacted by people all around the world who were asking me to help them source manufacturers, and help go and visit people who were producing products for them. And so on my weekends, I would take a taxi, 2 hours up into the middle of the Greater Bay Area into Guangdong, to go and visit a manufacturer, to go and essentially quality control, inspect, make friendships or build relationships with suppliers, manufacturers. And after 2 or 3 times doing this with 2 or 3 different quote unquote clients, they were just friends at the time, that I was just doing this as a favor. I just kind of thought, wait, actually I'm quite good at this, and I enjoy it. I speak Chinese, and so there's sort of this cultural bridge that I can offer people, and then I'm also quite sort of technically inclined, so I have quite sort of an engineering mind, and so when it comes to the products that we deal with, it came quite naturally to me, and so I then met my business partner, and we started a company, and the rest is history, really. And
Wow.
we're servicing customers in 5 different continents around the world.
Amazing. And what about the naming? Because this is like a recurring question I always ask in all the podcast episodes, because I'm very obsessed with namings. What's the naming coming from?
So Gaia is, as you know, Mother Earth, and as you may know, Mother Earth, but it's also the name of one of my favorite Italian restaurants.
No way.
I love Italian food, and I just love it. I like the sound of it, and yeah, it was just something that it sounded green, it sounded earthy, and we come with with sort of an ESG from with an ESG sort of part of the business as well. And so, we're looking out for the earth, and also it's a lovely name. So that's that story. Yeah,
that's interesting. And what's about what's the Chinese perspective, like conception of Gaia? Does it sound good to them, or does it sound, obviously it may sound foreign, but what's the feeling they got from, because sometimes when a brand goes cross borders, they sometimes they have to change their naming and everything because it sounds like offensive or whatever. I reckon this is not the case because Chinese and the culture, obviously. But what's the feeling they got from the naming?
No, it is so funny when Western come to China, and that they'll spend millions on their marketing campaign to get their name perfectly right. And we got lucky because Gaia just phonetically translates directly to Gaia, and so we got very lucky with that regard. We didn't have to spend too much time worrying about that. But yeah, like Coca-Cola, they've picked a lovely name which reflects very positively on their brand. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to do this. It was easy for Gaia Sourcing.
It was just it's just two characters. Even though we don't actually write it in Chinese a lot. We mostly just write the English Gaia, but the two characters are Gaia, and the Ya is the character for Asia, like as in the Asian continent. Yeah. And
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's cool. Sorry for this digression, but I'm always curious about namings.
No.
And and going back to product sourcing. In the podcast, we've been talking about product sourcing from different countries, whatever. But you also do product developing, no? What's exactly product sourcing and product developing, and how do you help international clients choose the best manufacturer is it China just, or is it also in other parts of Asia?
We also source from Southeast Asia and get products manufactured in Southeast Asia as well. There's been a lot of movement, definitely recently, to Southeast Yeah to try and avoid tariffs if you're exporting to America. So that's definitely something we can go into as well. But yeah, sort of to answer your question, product sourcing is products that already exist, and so things that it could be anything from raw materials to finished products. So it could be fabrics. You could be sourcing different types of fabrics, or different types of computer chips, or and there are oftentimes many different suppliers who will offer the same device or the same chip or component which does the same thing, but it'll be at a different price point with slightly different specifications or dimensions and functionality. And so we help people source suppliers and also source products, and that so yeah, that's one part of our business. Whereas another part is product development, which is taking product ideas from the concept to production. So we help people bring their product ideas to life. Really, we help people take their ideas, and we help them with industrial design, mechanical and electrical engineering, and prototyping, testing, manufacturing, and then mass production and logistics. And so that's kind of like the product development life cycle. You have to go through all teams with all of that, especially with the electrical engineering part and mechanical engineering part, and then we take. Well, the reason why people use us a lot is because we help protect intellectual property by keeping things in house, and then we can go and use our network of suppliers to then build the product and assemble the product. And so we can do that all on the ground in China, and then people don't need to come and set up their own sort of sourcing or development arm in China. They can just work with us and get a very premium service, and yeah, and so
I reckon, I mean, I don't really know much about this, but I reckon that the first part, so that is the sourcing, was like the first part of the business that you started with, and then you progressively got on product development, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. You're completely correct, because people were asking us to source particular products, and then they said, could we add this to it, or could we add that to it? You know,
why don't you no?
Yeah, and then as soon as we can provide something, then sometimes entrepreneurs these days, they're very creative. And so they're when you kind of say anything is possible, then they take that very literally, and then they ask you to do some wild things, and we at the beginning we were sort of leveraging the expertise of the factories and the engineers that were working at the factories, and we were using their expertise to help develop products, and that was extremely beneficial to everyone, and then we have sort of evolved just over time to bringing more things in-house, and that's just for a number of reasons. There's more control, there's more protection of IP, and we can sort of work more closely hand in hand with customers, and that people really customers really appreciate that, which is important. Yeah.
And what about this I reckon old-fashioned idea of, oh, it's made in China, it's bad quality? What do you reckon about this? Because at the end of the day, everything is made in China, or almost everything is made in China. So why do you think this is still on in some minds, about if a product is produced or made in China is bad quality?
Well, over the years, it has only improved, and now Chinese manufacturing is becoming the new gold standard. It's becoming the new top level in many different areas. I mean, take the car industry, for example. Car manufacturing moved from all corners of the globe to China because it was cheaper. And now, and then over the last 20 years, all of the engineers who were working in the in the German, in the Japanese, in the British, you name it, car factories, they have now built careers as engineers, as car engineers. And so now they're breaking off, making their own car companies. For example, BYD, XPeng, all of these amazing new car companies, and they're taking all of the information that they've learned over the years working for fantastic manufacturers, and they are using it to create their own businesses. And so, Chinese manufacturing has only improved. It only will continue to improve, and there's a saying as well in China where it's we have it in English as well. You get what you pay for, and in Chinese it's 一分钱一分货, and so if you want a cheap product, you can get a cheap product, no problem. But if you want a high level, a high quality, high level product, then you can absolutely get one of those as well. You can get whatever you, any level of the spectrum in China, which is why it's such a fantastic place to get things made.
And related to, now that we're talking about products and prices and everything, traditionally one of the places to go for in order to source some products already made in China and got them into private labels for Amazon in Europe, for example, is Alibaba. What can you tell me about this? Is it still on? Is it still relevant? What's the difference between this and what you do? Tell me something about this.
Absolutely, yeah. So Alibaba is by no question the biggest sourcing platform in the world, and it's a great place to go and do lots of research and test, explore the market and see what's out there. And so a lot of our customers actually come to us after having used websites such as Made in China or Alibaba.com, because they've either had a bad experience, or they're looking for a better price, or they're looking for closer relationship with the suppliers. I will say that it is the best place for a broad range, sourcing a broad range of products. Absolutely. And it does have a lot of good features, such as I think it's called trade assurance and things. And so, if your products never turn up or something, Alibaba will refund you and things like that. And that's all handled on the platform. So that's still definitely a good place to go and do things. How we separate ourselves is that we offer a more bespoke service, and for a lower price, or we can at the majority of the time match Alibaba's price, but take all of the hassle of having to deal with Alibaba out of your hands. And the reason being, Alibaba's prices they're quite high because they charge high platform fees to all of the different suppliers who try and get to the front page. It works exactly like Google. You have to fight to get to the front page. To pay for ads, you have to pay for a team to run your your page. And I mean, I made an entire video on the costs that suppliers actually have to pay in order to run an Alibaba page, which you can find on my YouTube.
I'll leave it in comments. Thank you for you just send me the link, and then I'll leave it in the description box.
I will, yeah. No, it's really interesting because people go to Alibaba and they're amazed because they think, wow, oh my God, so cheap. But it's actually, in terms of the Chinese market, it's actually not that cheap. If you really want to, if you really want to do proper sourcing from China, then you should talk to people who actually know what they're doing within the Chinese sourcing market, because it's a completely different world to the international sourcing market, or China to world and China to China is completely different. And there's always, so what I'd normally say is that only the big companies exist and do well on Alibaba. Alibaba doesn't do, you don't really do well as a small company, because if you don't have capital to invest in marketing, then you're basically just not going to make it. And that means that all of the little guys, if you go and find them through other means, I mean, we find a lot of people on Chinese social media, which is quite fun. You could be scrolling through Xiaohongshu or Douyin, which is two of the biggest social media platforms, and type the product that you want, and then boom, so much comes up. So that's a fun little exercise that you can do if you're looking for a product or for a supplier. And so the little guys are kind of taken advantage of on Alibaba, and then the big guys, they'll charge more for the same product. Yeah.
I reckon this happens the same with Amazon itself. So I mean, it makes sense for like a marketplace to do this. And so now, just curious, so how do you get your clients from? I reckon that you said that you got like people that already got like a bad experience in Alibaba or other sourcing platforms. How do you to get your clients? You do SEO, SEM? Do you go to fairs? I reckon. What's the difference, like China-wise? Because you only do sourcing, like sourcing in China, no, like in China. So do you have clients in China that want to go outside of China? Maybe too many questions in one. Sorry.
No problem. It's a great question, and we've tried a lot of things, a lot of ways to get our name out there. And one of the first things that I did was I just started making videos. I mean, it's 2025. If you want to do if you want to be seen anywhere, you need to be on people's phones, because that's where everyone lives. And so and that's where all the attention is. And so I then just started making videos of my life in China, and
is it like TikTok or
Instagram,
or YouTube
mostly?
Instagram, okay.
Instagram mostly, yeah. I just started making videos and talking about products, talking about manufacturing processes, talking about quality controls, inspection, ways to do inspections, talking about product development, the different stages of product development, and I did a bit of on Alibaba as well. And I just sort of said to myself, okay, you're going to post a video a day, every day for 100 days.
Wow.
And I did that.
Did you do it? Yeah,
I did it.
Did you do it?
And we were so busy, I couldn't make any videos anymore. And so,
do you think so do you think that because of doing the videos you got more clients, or it's got nothing to do?
Absolutely, yeah. Because of the videos, we got clients, and then because we got clients, I couldn't make videos anymore. But that's okay,
of course, yeah.
because we got clients, and we made them very happy, and so then they referred us to a lot of people. So a lot of our newer clients now are mostly referrals, and
that's the best.
Yes, yeah. Well, they're fantastic because if a friend is referring someone, then you have some trust in your friend, and
yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so we offer a very what we like to believe is a premium service, and especially when it comes to product development, people we're now sort of we've been lucky that we've kind of entered this group of entrepreneurs in America who have now been referring us to one another, and that's been extremely beneficial for us, and so we're kind of developing a little bit of a reputation in an entrepreneurs group, and so we're helping lots of young entrepreneurs. I mean, these guys they're 10 years younger than me, and they're launching these, 7-figure businesses and stuff, and we're just the ones who are sort of offering them the tools and the supply chain to make that happen.
That's amazing to be like helping, And what's the weirdest product that you have helped develop, or that you have developed, if you can say? Just curiosity.
Well, we didn't make it happen, but there were a few requests for some sex toys. But we didn't follow that one along. But we've got a few um, we've got a few very interesting. Um, oh, there's a God, sorry, I don't think I can say it because we've signed an NDA.
Oh,
um,
sorry.
no problem.
Well,
I think
maybe
yeah.
any product that you think that you can say that it's already
Oh,
published, or
yeah, one
yeah.
thing that I never thought that we would do was source some. We do a lot of data center liquid cooling. So we're sourcing liquid cooling modules. They're called
Mhm.
CDUs for data centers. And because AI is exploding, we're helping lots of data center contractors with supplying them these cooling units. But then, in addition to the cooling units, we have to supply a lot of valves, like the actual sort of pipes and valves that the
Yeah,
liquid
yeah.
passes through. And so that's been very interesting because we went and visited a valve factory, and the valves were so huge, I could stand inside them,
Oh,
and they
wow.
were they were so enormous.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that I never thought I'd be doing that in a
Doing
million years.
that. Yeah. And going back to more serious questions, um, what do you think is like the typical mistake that a company who wants to source or develop a product in China does every single time?
Um, oof. You know, it's funny because some people, um, they I guess it's not right at the beginning, but it's sort of a bit further on down the line.
Hmm.
People get a bit
Hmm.
complacent and they say, "Oh, our relationship is really good with the supplier. They're never going to cut corners, or they're never going to try and sort of, save a few pennies by changing the materials or something." But that does happen quite a bit, and
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, it can happen if you're not on top of it, and so
Hmm.
yeah, so we like to recommend people that even if it's your 5th or 10th or 20th time ordering from the same supplier, you should definitely still do a third-party inspection, and even send it to, we'll get a few products sent to our lab, and we'll do an in-house test.
Hmm.
And yeah, so there's a bit of maybe a bit of complacency, you could call it that.
Hmm. That's interesting. And yeah, maybe they just like think that the the end client is never gonna try them, no? After like the 10th or 11th time they have been producing the product, and then it's interesting. It's interesting. And what about what would be your first recommendation for someone who wants to start product developing, not sourcing, product developing? What would be your first recommendation?
Ooh, well, you got to come with a marketable product idea. So you got to
Hmm.
come with something that actually um, you may have tested the market with already. So you could have
Hmm.
launched a social media campaign or something to try and generate some buzz, and see if people are actually interested. Because sometimes we have people come to us with an idea, and we say, and we're sort of thinking, well, if you can't sell it, then what's the point of us making it? And so I think the first thing people should do is get a really good grasp on the concept, and build that out with testing the market. Go and do surveys. Go and build a community of people who might actually be willing to buy this thing, and then once you have done that research and laid that groundwork, then we should take the first steps into actually getting it produced into a prototype.
So like trying to do like an MVP first, like and build a community, before.
Exactly. Yeah. So build a community, start an Instagram, do do something, because at the end of the day, it's your money that you're going to invest into the building of the product, and then it's also our time and and our energy, and like we are more than happy to help, but you need to if it doesn't actually sort of turn into a business, then it could or if it doesn't go to mass production, then everyone's kind of left feeling a little bit high and dry. Yeah.
Because if I imagine I want to, I mean, I've already done my homework, like having like a proper community, whatever. What would be the process to ask you for like a product development? Would it be like for me to give you like I don't know, like a prototype on AutoCAD or whatever, if that exists still today, or what's the actual step-by-step process for me to ask you to develop a product?
Sure. Yeah. It's a 6-step process. The entire process is a six-step process. It starts with industrial design, and we don't need you to be particularly skilled in engineering or design, but you need to be able to sketch your ideas.
Okay.
you need to be able to at least describe it very, quite in depth to us, so that we can then get a good grasp on it. And then we can then take your idea and then go through the mechanical and electrical engineering part of it. How it will bend and fold and clip, and how it will be used, whatever. And then if it's an electrical device, then obviously we need to develop the PCB and the firmware, which is extremely important. And then if that then connects to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or an app, then we'll have to work that into the firmware development. And then we can 3D print a prototype and get that made up. And then boom, there you have your MVP. And then if you really test the market and bring that to your customers and they like it, and then you say, okay, I really want to move forward, then we can go into mold development and then tooling, final tooling, get everything ready for production, and then we can enter production and then deliver to the customer.
How many products like can be developed? That is infinite, isn't it? Or do you have like a minimum?
Yeah. Oh, like what's an MOQ? So minimum order quantity, it depends on the product that's being made. It's normally, if it's a brand new product, then a manufacturer will normally request minimum 1,000 pieces. Sometimes it's 10,000 pieces is the minimum.
10,000 is a bit,
yeah, but that really just depends on what you're purchasing. And for example, if it's literally just sort of like a small piece of plastic which you screw onto the top of a pen or something, then it'll be 10,000. It'll be in the tens of thousands. Whereas if it's a fully developed electronic item or something, then the MOQ will be a lot lower, because it's a lot more expensive to make.
Okay. And something that is like all the time, like here on my mind is like, obviously, I reckon that one of your like unique selling points is that obviously the business, but also you build this relationships with the manufacturers that like for a person in the US or in Europe, it's like very difficult to get in touch with them and build up like a rapport and relationship, like a global bond, you know? So what do you think it is the key when building this trust among, you know, like with your manufacturers? Do you think is that important? Do you think it can really make or break a product? What do you reckon?
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's. I mean, at the end of the day, business is done people to people, and you need to
Yeah.
develop some sort of relationship in order to make anything good happen. You know, good things normally happen when good people get together and work really hard,
Yeah.
and so we like to. The benefit of having us on the ground here is that we can do relationship building for you, and we can go to, you know, we can represent you as we go and talk with suppliers. And so, you know, basic things such as remembering their names, checking in every now and then, starting, you know, calling, you know, and having conversations about things other than business is also really good. But the main thing that, you know, that I've discovered that in order to get really close with a Chinese manufacturer is to do business with them. The more, you know, the more items that you're purchasing from them, then the happier they are, obviously. But that's but all of my best relationships are with the people who I do the most business with, and then but the thing is, they go kind of out of their way on the next time you work with them, and then they you know, we've had suppliers who are extremely accommodating when we go to them with a bit of a left field idea, something which they're not totally used to, but they'll say, okay, yeah, we'll give it a try, and then they help us out with that. So yeah, just building relationships is very important.
Yeah, because you know that this concept of like intercultural communication, which I'm very keen on, and it actually depends on the culture, and it actually depends on the target market. You know, like negotiation and relationship building are a bit different. Have you noticed any differences between like Chinese or Vietnamese or any other like Asian culture there? Like the way you talk to them or the way you do business with them varied from, you know, because I obviously, I'm sure that you have noticed, like from doing business with Chinese people than people from the US, obviously the way to do business is totally different. So, but have you noticed any differences within Asia?
That's a very
Or not
good
so much?
question. Not so much. I mean, because we are quite China focused. I mean, the whole when I say that we get things manufactured in Vietnam, it's actually using Chinese companies who have invested in Vietnam and created factories in Vietnam. So even though we're manufacturing in Vietnam and getting Vietnam certificate of origin, so Chinese Vietnam CO, so they can export to America and pay no tariffs or lower tariffs. It's still actually a Chinese-run business, and so we're still doing business with
Okay.
so yeah, that's quite interesting. I think as a person who is business fluent in Chinese, and I can walk into a room and hold a meeting in Mandarin, and then it, you know, it doesn't take people by surprise, but you know, people then sort of treat me with a bit, you know, a bit more respect.
Much more respect, yeah.
it's one thing about the Chinese is that they're incredibly complimentary when you speak Chinese, and they're constantly complimenting me on my linguistic skills, and it just sort of makes people at ease, and people are very very friendly as soon as I can sort of crack a joke in Chinese, or talk about something which is, you know, which Chinese people normally talk about, and you know, and can and I recognize where people are from, you know, like their hometown, which is in a far off part of China, which has a specific tasty dish that they like to eat there or something, and I can sort of reference that. People really like that, and then
that's culture, you know, that's culture.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. And just like to I mean, we have been speaking almost for an hour already. Time flies. And what about what do you think with all this? I mean, you briefly mentioned earlier about all these tariffs and everything that, you know, the US is imposing, China, blah 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 blah. What do you think the solution is for this? Obviously from the US, but also from Europe perspective, what do you think is going to happen in the future with all these tariffs and everything? Do you think people are going to still be sourcing and product developing in Asia, or are they going to be shifting into nearer countries?
It all depends on the robustness of a supply chain. For electronics, for example, which is what we do mostly, there's nowhere better in the world that what I've seen than the Greater Bay Area, and that's you know, Shenzhen, Dongguan, Guangzhou, and Foshan, and all of this area is particularly spectacular with electronics, and so the companies, Chinese companies, I mean, they're getting extremely clever. They're moving abroad, and so they're opening up factories in different parts of the world, and so you can still get the same products. We can still product develop here, but we can manufacture anywhere in the world, and so then that actually it makes things a lot easier when you're trying to dodge tariffs, or if you're trying to avoid paying high tariffs because you're exporting from China. And so it does come at a cost. You don't get things as fast. You can't, like, the lead times are a lot slower because the supply chain's not as robust in, let's say, in Romania that it is in China. You can't get the computer chips, and you can't get, there's a 2-month wait for computer chips, or there's a 2-month wait for this specific cable that you need to place into your device. Whereas in China, you can get it in 2 days. Or 3 weeks, and so that there are some trade-offs when it comes to reducing the amount that you have to pay with tariffs. Absolutely, but I mean, you know, we're so globalized now, the entire world, that I don't think I think so much. I understand what Donald Trump is trying to do with his sort of extreme tariffs. He's trying to bring manufacturing back to America, but a lot of manufacturing is still done by hand. People don't really understand. I mean, there has been huge advancements, don't get me wrong, in automation in manufacturing, and that's in, but that's only for sort of specific products. I mean, things like batteries and cars and LED lights and things like that are done by these extremely complex computers, machine and moving arms that go and place components everywhere. But the majority of the products that we have is still all tooled by hand, on assembly lines, done by hundreds of people, you know, or thousands of people, and everything, you know, all soldering and all of this stuff. It's all still very much done by hand, and if you want to keep that affordable, then you need to do it in places where the cost of employment is a lot lower. And so, unfortunately for Donald Trump, I don't think his tactic is going to work for the majority of products that we use in our everyday lives. Even the iPhone, even the iPhone needs 1,000 people to make it, or something. There's a production line, 1,000 meters long, that there will definitely be components of the iPhone, such as the CPU, which will be completely manufactured by a group of robots, but the actual assembly of everything and the putting together of everything is all done by hand. And so, so I think the tariff thing, it's definitely shaken the market, but international trade, it's like water. It will find a way.
It will find a way. Yeah. And what about now, talking about the future, present/future? I mean, we have to mention AI. What about AI in product sourcing or product developing? How does AI impact your business at some way?
Well, I mean, our team uses AI a lot. There are fantastic programs which help us design, help us come up with concepts, help us with communication. There's so many uses for AI in the sourcing world, and for a long time, actually, because of all of the videos that I was posting on Instagram, people were finding me through ChatGPT. They were asking, they were saying, who's the best sourcing company in China? And we were coming up as, number 2. And we hadn't tried to do that. So, it's been beneficial in a lot of ways. And yeah, so I think all aspects of the product development process, we can use it, from industrial design to engineering, and then to prototyping. There's lots of different programs that are using AI, and I think it's only going to get better, and it's only going to break open the doors more about what is possible.
Interesting. Very good. So, Robert, I think we can finish here. I've been, learning a lot, and all my curiosity about this sourcing and product developing has been covered, more or less. I don't know if you want to add something, if something you wanted to say or that we haven't covered that you think is important.
Oh yeah, and you did ask me, or one of the things you were going to ask me was, can I give an example of a product that we sort of took from through, helped develop?
I asked you,
and I think if you wouldn't mind, could I explain one of the things that we've been doing, or one of the groups of items
sure.
that we've been helped with?
Yeah.
So we help internet service providers build out their networks, their network topology. So kind of from the landing center where the optical fiber reaches land from the submarine optical fibers, it will land, and then we have essentially helped a number of ISPs build out their entire network topology. So from the landing center to the actual router that reaches the end customer, the Wi-Fi router. And so we've kind of helped prototype, develop, build out the software, the firmware for these companies, and have really kind of been their boots on the ground support in order to make these in order to make their network topology work. And so that's now being deployed, and we're extremely proud to have been who have been doing that, and so that's kind of one of our main focus areas is telecoms, telecommunications.
Mm. I mean, I would have never ever in my life thought about this when we thought about product development. I have like, you know, I would think about like a mobile or like a computer, whatever, but not like the whole telecom system. Wow, amazing. So
We
well
just
done.
yeah. We just do the devices. They manage all
Oh
of
yeah,
the
well, yeah. Anyway. Okay, Robert. So the typical two very last questions I ask in every episode. First one is, could you tell us an anecdote that is funny or not so funny about uh, language problems and or cultural clash because of miscommunication? I'm sure you've had loads.
yeah, I have actually. When it comes to China, my friends and I always used to say anything is possible, but nothing is easy. That was something that we would say a lot. But in terms of culture, sort of, I mean, yeah, there's so many funny, quirky things about also differences. I'd say quirky differences between like British and Chinese culture, and because I'm like right back, well, I understand so much of both. I'm constantly when my friends see me with a group of Chinese friends or colleagues or something, I'm almost like a different person, and so
Of course.
well, like
Yeah.
not a different person, but sort of my mannerisms are a bit different,
Yeah.
you know,
I
and
understand
so
because this happens to everyone when for example me, I speak Catalan, Spanish and English, so I am not totally but sort of like a different person and different personality
yeah,
when speaking one language or another, so I do understand what you mean.
yeah, and yeah, so I mean, it's funny things like, in China, you need to, when you're sitting around the table, I love table manners in China. It's so different to British table manners, because in China there are all of these funny quirks. Like it's normally a round table, and then if it's a banquet, and then the most important person must be the person sitting facing the door. That's always an extremely important thing, and too many times when I was early in my career, I'd sit in that seat facing the door.
And you were
Because in
like
British culture, sometimes it's nice to give the most important person, the view. You can look out the window and see the nice view, whereas in China it's kind of the opposite. And then there's things like table manners, like not slurping your food, and or like spitting bones onto the table, whereas in Chinese culture that is so completely fine. Like sitting upright and using a knife and fork and bringing your food to your mouth, whereas in China you can sort of bend towards the table and sort of do that, and then the more you do that, then the more sort of Chinese you seem,
you
and then
are. Yeah.
the more Chinese you are, and people kind of pick up on that. And then always, when you go to cheers, you need to cheers below the person to show respect, whereas in British culture, you want to all cheers really high, so that
that's interesting.
so there are all of these fun little culture differences that I'm constantly picking up on, and yeah, I quite enjoy it.
That is what makes a difference. That is what makes a difference. Okay, very last question. Who do you think I could invite here to tell us something about international business, broad, whatever?
I've got a great friend. I've got two great friends, and they both work at the same company.
Okay.
And I think you could reach out to both of them, and both of them would be very good, because they're both like long-term China guys, and both American, but they've been in China for 15 years, maybe even longer. And they both work for a digital marketing company, and they help Chinese businesses market overseas. So they help Chinese
It's
businesses
interesting.
go abroad. And so their customers are Chinese. So they're kind of the opposite of me. My customers, people who I work with, are mostly all foreign, and the people that they work with are all Chinese. And so, yeah, they'll have a completely fresh outlook on world. And so their company is called Somos Digital, and that's John and Alex. And so I can introduce you to John and Alex.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah. So it would be very interesting, I mean, to know a little bit about the other side of the story, like how they help, and how they find all those Chinese companies that want to do business outside of China. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, Robert, this has been a super pleasure. I will leave your contact details somewhere below, along with your Instagram. Now I'm just going to go and check the Instagram to see your videos. Oh, there you are.
Wow, look at that. Yeah, just need to do more of that.
Yeah. So with all these fireworks and so
what a way to close the show.
Oh yeah, my God. This has been like the most amazing closing episode ever.
The greatest
Robert,
showman.
yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed and learned, and I hope to see you soon. Maybe Barcelona. I don't really think China. Maybe Barcelona or London or somewhere in the middle. I don't know.
Absolutely. Muchas gracias, Oscar. And my brother lives in Barcelona, so I will be coming there before you know it. To visit. Yeah.
Perfect. So just give me a shout and we can have some tapas and some vermouth.
Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
a caña. Yeah.
A caña as well. Okay. Yeah. See you. Thanks, Robert. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.